Well, I said, I didn't want a job. That's why I went into boxing, so I wouldn't need a job.
But you and Larry Merchant put on quite a show back then.
Larry was some guy to work with. You know, he's a real creative guy, and he had his heroes in writing. I had my heroes in boxing. So
fighting.
We were always entangled into what we really wanted to project, but I loved working with Larry.
Do you think the way the business has changed, right? It used to be HBO was the place where all the big fights happened, and to a lesser degree, Showtime. And now we have a million different places offering high-level content, but there's no real, like, one place. This is where, how do you see the change in the boxing industry and you know, as it relates to HBO going away?
Yeah, change is necessary, though. You got to change. You just can't stay the same. I left boxing, and remember, it was Howard Cosell calling all of my fights on ABC. And when I got back, I said, what has happened to boxing? Here it is, HBO and Showtime. Who are these people? Next thing you know, HBO just took over. So now it's falling to someone else, and someone's just going to have to come out and do something great in boxing. That's all. Network.
You talk about, like, first it was Howard Cosell, and then when you get back, because there was a 10-year hiatus where you had retired from the ring, and there was a 20-year gap between you losing the title to Muhammad Ali in the Rumble in the Jungle and you knocking out Michael Moore for the lineal championship, the heavyweight championship of the world. And something that blows my mind, George, is it's been 25 years since then.
25 years. Can you imagine that? I used to celebrate so much. The Rumble in the Jungle, 45 years. Then someone said, oh, in a few weeks is going to be the winning back of the title, 25 years. All these things happening like that. Now I need to do something else. So I got the knockout George Foreman formula now. It'll knock you out, take the pain away.
I want to get to that in a second because bigger than the Rumble in the Jungle or Michael Moore as a piece of business may have been the George Foreman grill. That was like...
Michael Moore boasts about that, too.
What's he say?
If he had knocked me out, it would have been a Michael Moore grill.
I don't think so, somehow. But so now you got this pain relief formula?
Yeah, George Foreman from Real Time, pain relief knockout formula. You put it on old pains, old aches, and it helps.
How long does it take? How long does it take?
About rubbing it on a little bit, and you wait about 20 minutes, maybe less. And old pain, you get a little relief, and that's all you want is a little relief so we can go out there and hurt it again. But I'm getting relief now, and I'm promoting that now. You can, Amazon, just ask for George Foreman, not the grill this time, although they are there, but ask for the real-time pain relief from George Foreman.
Is that you had so much success with the grill? And I'm sure it's not the only thing you ever tried to put your name on, but what is the secret to selling something like the grill? Obviously, the Pitchman is a huge thing. You were the heavyweight champ. Everyone loved George Foreman, the way you'd reinvented yourself. But was the kind of quality of the grill itself part of it? It worked.
It worked. For the first time in the grill, it had a slant. Right. You could actually cook on both sides, so it wouldn't take long, and the grease would slant away. So people would all of a sudden look out, my waistline is back, and I'm eating steak. That kind of thing.
They put a waffle iron on a tilt, and I bought one. I thought, that's genius. It worked. It cooks in half the time.
And he's even good with veggies.
Right.
And now with this new formula from Real-Time Knockout, George Foreman Knockout formula, it works.
You're saying it works, and that's why you believe it works.
Right. And you know what? I got 14 grandkids, 3 great-grandkids. And when they come around me and they play, there have been times when they'd come around me and say, he smells like Grandpa. So this stuff does not smell. So they keep coming and playing with me. I like that.
I'm in the middle of a George Foreman infomercial, and I love it. It's like a dream come true. It's like
but that's true. It's true.
Getting back to boxing, are you following the recent heavyweight division?
I like it.
Yeah.
And with Ruiz and AJ, of course, Anthony Joshua, that just turned boxing upside down. And this guy, Ruiz, can really fight. He's always been able to fight. Yeah. I don't know why they took him on
notice. Yeah.
I just don't understand that. But now, if Joshua gets to watch the Muhammad Ali, Leon Spinks, #2, he can win it.
Why do you think?
Pop, pop, hold. Pop, 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 hold. Just keep hitting and holding. 12 rounds, he'll win a decision.
Think he has the stamina to do that?
He's going to have to find the stamina because all you got to do is hold. Just don't try to punch. He's too tall. He's too far up in the air.
And his chin is up, huh?
Yeah, and this guy is accustomed to fighting nothing but tall guys, his whole amateur and professional career. He knows how to fight tall guys.
AJ's a big, strong guy. And what's it like as a puncher? When now this didn't happen too often to you, but when you hit someone with a big shot, the way Ruiz went down, but then picked himself back up, what's that do to a puncher when he sees the guy get up from a big shot?
You know, and I was telling my son today, boxing is about management. The one time you've got to fight is when you get a title shot. You got to fight then. That's nothing to protect you. The champion doesn't go away unless you beat him. And the contender that get in the ring with you, he comes to fight. So you get knocked down, you say, well, let me get up. And you don't wait for the referee to count. You get up and you fight. That's what it's like.
And you did that against, like, Ron Lyle, for example. What a fight. But I mean, as a puncher yourself, because AJ hit him with such a shot, to watch Andy Ruiz, like, rise from that must be disheartening for the puncher, right?
But that's what happened when you get to be champ. People say, look, I've come here, and maybe I'll die, but I'm going to win. And that's what contenders think like that. You're not going to just knock me down and say it's all over. Put your hand down, here I come again.
Did you have to learn that against Ali in the Rumble in the Jungle? Like, I always thought if the George Foreman from the Rumble in the Jungle had the brain of the George Foreman who fought Michael Moore, that's the greatest fighter ever.
If I only had a brain. You know what? I was knocked down, and Archie Moore and Dick Sattler said, look, if you get knocked down, don't listen to the ref, find us. I found them, and they said, hold it, stay. They counted for you. Then they tell you to get up, and you get up. And I did it, and it was all over. I waited too long to get up by their instruction. The second time around, when I fought Ron Lyle, it's like, I'm not listening, I'm getting up. And he knocked me down again, but I kept getting up. You must learn, if you get knocked down, count one up, get up off the floor.
Which is something that Tyson Fury did. I'm going to get to that in a second against Deontay Wilder, talking to an American Olympian who could punch and became heavyweight champion. There's another guy around like that a little bit right now. In fact, let's get to that. Deontay Wilder, 6'7". Checking in only about 217, George. He's lighter than you at 6'7", but he can knock down the walls of a city with that right hand.
It's like Bob Gibson all over. That was a great baseball pitcher. That's the reason they shaved off that mound, because he come off that thing, ooh, and if he didn't hit you, you were more afraid of him hitting you with that ball. He could pitch. Now Wilder, he comes off the mound with that height, and that right hand comes in there. It's like a steaming locomotive. If you better duck, if you can't duck, you better not get in there.
Tyson Fury, that's why my hat's off to him, to rise from, not only did he beat Klitschko, but then to come back from all his troubles out of the ring.
I was shocked when he got up from that shot. I was shocked. I said, no way. So that tells you there's another kind of a creature out there. This guy can really fight. They call him the Gypsy King. He's more than that. This guy's pulling tricks.
6'7", 6'9", and they can fight. When you look at you guys like you and Muhammad Ali, who were giants back then, 6'3", 220, and now you're looking at guys who can fight. Maybe not quite like you guys, but they're so much bigger.
But height does not make you a good fighter at all. Bigness does not. It's right here. This is what makes you a fighter. When you decide, I'm getting in the ring, and if it's Goliath himself, I'm going to get him. It doesn't matter. Size has nothing to do with it, as you saw with Ruiz and Joshua. Size got nothing to do with it.
So when you look at this heavyweight division, well, first of all, let's talk about Deontay Wilder's power for a second. I looked at, when I was a kid, the two biggest punchers ever were you and Ernie Shavers. The size has something to do with, like, Rocky Marciano could punch, but you and Shavers at 220 and 210, and then came Lennox Lewis, who maybe wasn't pound for pound a puncher, but he's 245 or something like that, and could hit. And now these guys, like Deontay Wilder, when you think of the best punchers ever, and you watch Wilder, what are you thinking? Where does he rank with that shot?
He's got power.
Did he punch like you?
And a New Yorker showed him how to punch.
Mark Breland.
Mark Breland, that's right. We're trying to think of it. Mark Breland has taught him the power and the strategy of throwing the right hand. Reckless he is. And if you're in the way, you're going down. I've seen a lot of power with Deontay Wilder, more power than anyone else in the heavyweight division.
What about compared to guys like you, Ernie Shavers, Sonny Liston? Can he hit like that?
Nobody can hit like Ernie Schaefer. He had a crunch punch, and it was real, like a welterweight. He'd come back, whop. And if he happened to catch you, you were going to take a stroll down memory lane, trying to remember what in the world am I doing here? And Ernie Schaefer was the best as far as executing the punch. Sonny Liston was he could have beat all of those guys we just mentioned. He could have beaten them all, but that Muhammad Ali, who played with him and talked with him so much. Nobody's prepared for that.
Ali's still the greatest heavyweight of all time? Or do you like Joe Louis?
No, Ali is the greatest man of all time that ever boxed. Joe Louis, the greatest fighter of all time.
What'd you love so much about Louis?
Oh, man, there was never a punch that he was off balance. Whop, 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 and he'd get you with one, he was going to hit you with 4 more. Nothing like him before or since. We're all just maybe 10. It's Joe Louis and number 10.
Before I let you go, they're telling me we've been talking for 10 minutes already, but I'm geeking out about that. I got George Foreman here. I want to talk to you about boxing. Do you pay attention to divisions other than the heavyweights right now?
Oh, yeah, Canelo. I love Canelo. That's about the best fighter, period, around right now.
What do you like so much about him?
Whatever he's weak in, he comes back stronger. He gets better and better. Other than Mayweather, I've never seen anyone to get better each 3-year period. He's better.
Working on his game.
He works on his game. No better said.
Lomachenko. Have you been watching Vasyl Lomachenko at all?
Yeah, they're really good, but they don't develop like Canelo has.
Like Canelo?
No.
I want to get back to you for a second. The Foreman that fought Ali, 40-0, 37 knockouts, knocked out Kenny Norton in 2 rounds, who split 2 fights with Ali. Knocked out Joe Frazier in 2 rounds, who'd split 2 fights with Ali. Unbeatable, the guy's never going to lose. And then you have the Rumble in the Jungle. It's the 45th anniversary coming up. What did you learn in that fight that you took with you later in your career?
Well, you've heard the term rope-a-dope.
Of course.
Meet the dope. I learned never be a dope again.
Use your head.
Use your head. You got to think. Fighting is a thinking man's sport. You got to think. You must think all the time. Sure, you got power left and right, but you must think. And I never forgot that.
And then in your comeback, we talked about the Ron Lyle fight, the Jimmy Young fight, where you had a religious awakening.
Yeah.
You quit boxing, become a preacher.
Still a preacher.
Still a preacher. Go away for 10 years. I remember your comeback. I was a kid. I was in high school at the time. And you were talking about you just wanted to get a roof for the church. That's why you started fighting. And then it got bigger and bigger. And eventually you get the title shot at Holyfield. And when you say you learn to think, don't be a dope, how did that influence your win against Michael Moore 20 years after the Rumble in the Jungle?
Well, Michael Moore, he believed the hype as I had with Muhammad Ali. Nobody ever knocked him out. I was going to knock him out in 1, maybe 3 rounds at the most to show everybody I'm not going to hurt him. See, I knocked him out. I'm humane. Michael Moore chose before the fight, get the puncher's glove, Reyes glove. I said, this guy really think he can out-punch me. He really believed that and played right into the hand of a real puncher from way back.
One fight that never took place when you won the heavyweight title, it was, to this day in the history of sports, I've never been affected by something like that, like the impossibility of going from one of the greatest heavyweight era ever, to one of the greatest heavyweight eras ever, 20 years between, you win back the title. That was really something that I've never experienced in boxing, right? Before or since. Now you're the heavyweight champion of the world. And there was a guy named Mike Tyson around at the time. who people thought, well, Foreman did great, but you can't feed him to Mike Tyson. But what happened subsequently makes me think, I wonder what would have happened. Not if Foreman fought Tyson in his prime, but if they would have fought then. What would have happened if you would have fought Mike Tyson?
I call him Mike Nightmare Tyson. That guy was a nightmare in the ring. I mean, really, if he missed you with his left, then missed you with his right, he'd bite you. I didn't want to have anything to do with that guy.
You didn't want him?
No, I didn't want him.
Do you think he wanted you?
No way. We were both. One was scared, and the other was glad of that. I didn't want any part of Mike Tyson.
So he was scared of you, and you were glad that he was scared of you?
Amen, preacher.
Why do you think he was scared of you?
I could really punch, and of course, I was an expert